Hello, I'm Reverend Ruth Van Lillian. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. We are a covenantal community founded on loving kindness and a common devotion to our free faith. We recognize all the earth as sacred ground, and we welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We are so glad you're here. We invite you to check out our website and our Facebook page to learn more about us. We hope to touch hearts, teach minds, challenge spirits, and comfort souls. May you find refreshment and restoration in our service today.
We light this flame, this symbol of energy, of light, of life, to remind us of the energy within us, of the light of our life, of the light that is in us, of the light that is us.
So today I have another story for you, and I have to remember that I'm recording this on November the 28th, which is a Sunday, but you're actually going to see this on December the 5th, and this is the story of Hanukkah. So when you see this story, it will actually be the last day of Hanukkah on the 8th, on the 8th day. So I'm going to tell you this story, and this is sort of the children's version. And as you grow older and you learn more about history, more about things that happened, you begin to really understand what was going on at the time. But this is a story that happened a really long time ago. So this is how it starts. Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Well, wait. I think that's not the right story. Well, it's kind of the same thing, except this story took place on this planet in the Middle East during the reign of Alexander the Great, who was Greek, but he had conquered a lot of at the time, the known world. So he conquered Syria and Egypt and Palestine. But he was pretty great, and he allowed the lands under his control to continue observing their own religious traditions. So the Jews at this time of Alexander could have their big temple, and they could have their ceremonies, and they could have their beliefs, and they were kind of left alone. And this went on fine, except Alexander died, as people do, and as happens with kings, the next person who becomes king is the king's son, and then maybe the king's grandson. But after Alexander died, Antiochus IV became king. And at this point, the kingdom kind of became the evil empire. That's like back to the other story. So he, unlike his father, didn't like people to be different, and he began to oppress the Jews and other people and forbid them to practice their religion, and put different priests in charge and destroyed their temples. So he was the evil empire. There were two groups that opposed Antiochus. One was a group led by Mattathias the Hasmonean, which I just love his name, and his son Judah Maccabee, and you might have heard of the Maccabees. And so they led the first group, and the other group were the Jedi Knights. Well, okay, they weren't Jedi, but they were other people. I just keep getting the stories mixed up. So anyway, that was another group, and the two groups joined forces, and they went off out into the mountains to get organized and learn how to be Jedi, basically, and learn how to fight and how to fight together. And they came back and defeated the king and took back their temple. And this was the main temple, and in every temple or place of worship, there was a menorah or candle holder. And this was supposed to burn day and night in the temple. Now, back then, they didn't have electricity, and they didn't have gas lights, and they didn't even have candles. They used oil lamps. So they cleaned everything up and put everything back in the temple that had been destroyed, and they got ready to relight this lamp, but they found only enough oil for it to burn for one night. And it would take a week for them to get more oil ready. So they lit it anyway. And miraculously, this is the miracle, it lasted for 8 days, long enough for them to prepare more oil. So today we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 nights. It's called the Festival of Lights because we light candles every night. Now I have, this is my menorah. Now, a menorah is just a candle holder. This is a special menorah. It's called a Hanukkah or Hanukkah menorah, and it has 9 places for candles, 8 for each one for each one of the nights, and then a special candle. So this candle is called the shamas or servant. And every night we light this candle, And then we light all the other candles for the nights. And each night we add. So this would set up like this would be for the fourth night. On the night I'm talking to you, it would have all 8 candles in it. But we add candles from the right because Hebrew is read from right to left. But when we light the candles, we light the shamas, and then we would light the newest one first. So we light in this direction. So the only one that does any work is the shamas. And we keep it just in case we need a candle to do something else, like maybe like the fire in the fireplace or something. We have that light. We don't use these. They're just to remind us of the miracle and for our enjoyment. And they're left burning until they go out on their own. We don't blow them out. So Jews all over the world basically do this. They light lights of Hanukkah and remember this great victory. But there's also, of course, in the Jewish tradition, there's lots of other things. And a lot of it has to do with food. So we eat foods that are cooked in oil because of the oil issues surrounding the whole thing. In the Eastern European tradition that I come from, we eat latkes, which are potato pancakes that are fried in oil. And in the Middle East, they eat sufganiyot, which are donuts, which are really good. So think beignet from New Orleans, or zeppoli if you're Italian. So it's basically a fried donut filled with jam or dipped into jam, and they're really, really, really good. We take, we have different things that we do, and sometimes the traditions get improved upon. This year I'm going to try to fry my latkes in the air fryer. We'll see if it works. By the time you hear this story, I'll know whether or not it worked, but I can't tell you right now. So gift giving is not a traditional part of the holiday, and this is not a particularly religious holiday. We're remembering these people who overcame the oppression and reestablished the temple. But we eat latkes and we play with dreidels. That's right here. And it's like a game of chance. It's like gambling. You spin the top and do whatever it tells you to do. But we usually play with chocolate money instead of real money. And in some families, the children get a gift every night, particularly families that have lived among a large Christian population for a long time. The only gifts that I can remember getting, we had the first night was always the family night where we gave each other little gifts. We drew names and gave each other little gifts. And the children got geld, which is money, and you got like so much money per year for however old you were. So, you might get $1 a year. So when you were 15, you get $15, which I guess to a 15-year-old was a lot of money. So the Hanukkah celebrated is based on the Jewish calendar, which is a lunar calendar. And someday, if you really want to, we can do a class when we're back in the church building about how a lunar calendar relates to our calendar, which is a solar calendar based on the sun. And it's really very interesting to try to keep up with all the different things that are going on. So this year, Hanukkah began on Sunday night, November the 28th, and ends today, when you're seeing this, on Sunday, December the 5th. So I hope you say Happy Hanukkah to all your friends, and realize, to all your friends who are Jewish, and realize that this holiday has absolutely nothing to do with winter or being cold or the light coming back or Christmas or anything else. It's a holiday that was not generally celebrated in the temple. It was celebrated in people's homes to remember a historical event. The other thing you should know is that just like in this country, as we re-examine our history, and we re-examine the history of the Greeks and the Greek civilization in Palestine and realize that the Maccabees were fighting not only or opposing not only the Greeks who were the rulers, but also the Jews who wanted to assimilate into the Greek culture. So there's a really lot to unpack about Hanukkah. But the basic children's story is kind of like Star Wars. There was the evil empire. There was the guys who went up into the hills, learned how to fight, came back, defeated the evil empire, and reestablished the temple. And so we light the lights every night for Hanukkah. And I appreciate you listening to my story. I would really like to tell the story in person because I like for people to ask questions about it. But maybe next year on Hanukkah, we'll be able to do that.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
These days, more than ever, our community and our fellowship need our financial support. If you're a member or a friend, old or new, you can send in your pledge or other contribution by check in the mail or online at uufec.com. Our fellowship also has a tradition we call Share the Plate. Every Sunday, the cash offering and the collection plate would be split evenly between the fellowship and a local charity. Online donations to Share the Plate will be split in the same way. During the month of December, Share the Plate donations will be shared with Opportunity Place of Fort Walton Beach. I'd like to read a little bit from their webpage describing their vision. At Opportunity Place, we believe everyone deserves a safe home and an opportunity to succeed in life. Our shelter provides that safety to families and single women experiencing homelessness, while providing personalized case management to help them secure long-term housing. We also believe in the power of family and community. We connect women and families to community resources that meet their immediate needs, but also give them tools for creating a sustainable, healthy path forward. Please be generous in your giving. Thank you so much.
As we consider the joys and the concerns of those in our church family, let us spend a moment in silence, and I will close us with a few words. Where do we find hope? In the search for divine love made incarnate in the human experience, in the structures and systems created to hold justice, which yet leak. In the earth, our only home among the stars, offering sustenance and shelter, even as she bleeds. In the warmly muscled handhold of neighbor, workmate, child, parent, lover, there are forces intent on pulling us from hope and toward all that leads to despair. But the strong and steady love of this community holds us fast. Where do we find our hope? Among our many separate sources, we come together and find it here again. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. The young intern minister stood and walked rather nervously to the pulpit in her first Christmas service to read from the big Bible. Give ear to these words from the Gospel according to Luke. In that region, there were shepherds keeping watch over their flock by night. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy." She paused ever so slightly as the Spoonerism lingered in the air. Then she continued quickly, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior who is the Messiah, the Lord. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." She nearly missed the chair in her haste to sit down. The rest of the service was a blur. Afterward, as she visited with folk over cider and hot cocoa, everyone complimented her performance and not a word about her blunder. A few days later, she received a card in the mail from her supervising minister. All it said was, "Great Jew." Indeed he was. Merry Christmas. So, anyone feeling jolly yet? I've been thinking about this time last year. Remember December of 2020? I know some of you had gotten your trees up by this time while others were having trouble getting motivated to decorate. It felt a lot less like ho, 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 and a lot more like, humbug. This time last year, I imagined the spirits of Christmas past, present, and future were staying home. And Scrooge was stuck in his gloomy apartment telling Marley to shut the heck up and stop rattling those chains. The Grinch remained in his mountain lair feeling surprisingly chipper, while the Whos were wearing masks down in Whoville and isolating indoors. No roast beast feast in 2020, just sad little plates of cold Who hash. Like children with their faces pressed up against the toy shop window, eagerly waiting for Santa to bring them their favorites, we could see then the promised end to this miserable pandemic existence. Videos showing bottles of COVID vaccine rattling along on conveyor belts. But our stockings were still empty long past Christmas Day. We were told that masking and social distancing would continue for months to come. Not many Christmas miracles last year. Ho, ho. So, here we are, a year later, and with a somewhat frantic insistence, people seem determined to have the best Christmas ever. About 55% of the US population have received 2 doses of vaccine, and an additional 15% have received their first dose, most of these children. Things are better. Cases are down in many areas, along with hospitalizations and deaths, though hot spots and spikes keep popping up. We're all wishing and hoping for and imagining a season without COVID, a return to better days like before the pandemic. Moderation is not our best thing in this country. We lean toward a feast or famine mentality, and we surely prefer feast. I know I do. So when the public health experts keep telling us to wear masks and observe social distance, many people have just reached their limit. Don't we all just want to fling away those masks, hug each other, dance in the streets, and forget all about this COVID nightmare? Enough is, after all, enough. Holiday cheer? Yuletide spirit? A holly jolly Christmas? Darn tootin', and about time, too. In this spirit of celebrating with a vengeance, let me tell you a touching and inspirational true holiday story. My mother spent her last Christmas in a nursing home. She had suffered a stroke and was out of her head with a severe kidney infection, and every time I went to see her, she vented such rage toward me it was hard to stay in the room. I could not bring the boys to see their granny because I was afraid my sweet little Southern lady of a mother might behave badly and frighten them. On Christmas Day, I walked into her room where she was busy writing on the back of the hospital menu. She glared at me and growled with venom. I am rewriting my will and you're not in it. I calmly walked over to look at the gibberish written carefully on the page and responded lightly, "Okay, Mom, you have at it." Sorry, not touching and inspirational enough for you? Did I neglect to mention the funny part of this story? It's alien hand syndrome. No, it's a real thing, I promise. From her first hours in the emergency room, she lost track of her left hand. It just wandered around independent of her will and without her knowledge. It grabbed and pulled and twisted and pushed. "Who's playing with my hair?" she fussed. I looked at her left hand on her head. "You are." She looked at me as if I were crazy. "Mom, that's your own left hand playing with your hair." She held up her right hand in front of me as proof to discount my assertion. "Here's my hand, it's not on my head." I felt annoyed at the absurdity of the conversation. I grabbed her left hand from off her head and held it in front of her. "This is your left hand. It was on your head." She looked at her hand for a long moment. Then, in a defiant voice, she declared, "That is not my hand." Oh, I know. It is a sad story about an intelligent, kind-hearted woman who, in the last weeks of her life, lost her good sense and was sometimes mean as a snake to her loving daughter. But this story is also funny. Alien hand syndrome is rare enough that a lot of the medical staff had never seen a case. Mom's brain was out of touch with her left hand, left leg, and even the left side of her field of vision. One day, when in a better mood, she asked me a strange and alarming question. "Why do I have to share a bed here?" I looked at her in astonishment and glanced at her hospital bed. "What do you mean? You have your own bed right there." She shook her head. "Well, then why does someone keep getting in there with me?" My alarm was increasing rapidly. Was someone sneaking in at night to take advantage of an old lady? "Mom, Has someone hurt you? She shook her head. No, they just get in bed with me, and it's so crowded. There's not enough room. I want a bed to myself. I called my husband and related the tale in an agitated state. He listened, and then he started to chuckle. I was annoyed. What's so funny? I groused in indignation. Ruth, it's the alien hand thing, the stroke. And he laughed again, and I started thinking about it. Apparently, my mother's brain was so disconnected from the entire left side of her body that she believed she was encountering a different person sharing her bed night after night. But the intruder was herself, the left side of her own body. And then I started to laugh. The more I thought about it, the more I laughed. It was so ridiculous, so absurd. Who could have imagined it? Who could have invented such a story? I didn't even try to explain it to her. She would never have believed me anyway. I mean, would you? I just told her not to worry about it, that her bed buddy wouldn't hurt her. New Year's came, and not long afterward, Mom and her alien left side left us and entered the great mystery the day before her 84th birthday. I know it's a sad story, but in a sense, it's everyone's story, right? No one gets out of this world alive. Everyone's story ends the same way. Everyone's story ends with the same punchline. So we might as well go out laughing. I promise you that Mama believed that. And if she'd been able to understand it all, she would have laughed until she cried. Laughter through tears is my favorite emotion, said salon owner Truvy in the play Steel Magnolias. Well, that's the holiday season in a pandemic. Yes, there is plenty to cry about. More than enough misery and fear and anger to go around. As the Omicron variant descends upon us, we may strain to find something to smile about, and yet I promise there is. Human beings are flawed and strange and even a little crazy. We might as well laugh. If we can't find something to smile about and cheer us up in the middle of the worst health crisis of the last 100 years, well, then we're just not trying hard enough. Haven't we learned by now that crisis may bring out the worst sometimes, but it also frequently brings out the best in people as well? So a new segment about teen siblings whose parents were incapacitated with COVID a couple of weeks ago. And the kids took on the family turkey giveaway, which is their annual service project. The teens did it all while Mom and Dad stayed home in bed. Hundreds of turkeys given away to their community. Good for them. Do you remember Chris Kennedy? A father in Little Rock, Arkansas, who last year received a nasty note full of racist insults and complaints about the inflatable black Santa figure in his front yard. The note writer suggested Kennedy, who is African American, didn't belong in the neighborhood and should move out. Neighbors from around the area heard about it and went out of their way to express their support for Kennedy's family. In fact, within a few days, black inflatable Santas popped up all around the neighborhood, including in the display put up by the Homeowners Association. I laughed out loud when I saw that on TV. There is genuine cheer to be found, my friends, if we pay attention. We don't need to fabricate an artificially cheerful season out of our desperate exhaustion from the pandemic. Yes, let's acknowledge the bad, but let's work harder to find the good. It's okay to cry and to laugh as we cry. We will look back and say, in spite of everything that was going on, we found laughter and community and, well, love. So deck your halls, hang your wreaths. The sad, the mad, the bad will continue to demand our attention, but don't be fooled. There's genuine gladness to be found if we will look for it. Find some happy for your holiday, some jolly in your holly. Insist on some genuine cheer in this strange year. Life and hope continue. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
We now extinguish this flame, but not our energy. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of our life. We extinguish this flame, but not the light that is us.
Siblings and kindred, in this holiday season, in the midst of many struggles, may you find, make, and share gladness. Go in peace. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.